Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition and the promise you make as a Dungeon Master when you start a campaign and what you need to do in order to deliver, all right? So basically, warning, I'm going to talk about 3 shows in this based on their storytelling model, and I'm going to have spoilers for all of them. So this content will include spoilers for the show Jupiter's Legacy, for the show Debris, and for the show Mayor of Easttown. Okay. So those 3 shows are all the same, and they have a lesson for every dungeon master in them. Okay. And that message is, when you start a campaign, when you start your story, you make a promise to the story experiencer, the person who's going to experience your story. For those shows, they each make a promise to their viewer. And that promise is, you're going to give us your time, and we're going to give you a compelling story. We're going to raise interesting questions, and we're going to answer them. We're going to make this story matter, and it's going to be something you remember. It's going to be something that was worth the time you invested, right? And that is the story that all 3 of these shows made. Jupiter's Legacy is like, we're not going to waste your time, right? We're going to answer the questions we raise. We're going to do something exciting. Things are going to happen. Things are going to change. Something new is going to be presented, okay? Jupiter's Legacy made that promise when it began. Debris, the show Debris, made that promise when it began. The show Mayor of Easttown made that promise when it began, okay? So let's talk about these shows. So Jupiter's Legacy is done. It's finished, okay? Season 1 is finished, okay? And that show came out, and it trod incredibly well-trod areas already. So bad superheroes who aren't heroes, super old, right? It's Watchmen. It's Invincible. It's The Boys. It's trite at this point. It's a cliche. The story structure model is a cliche, right? However, me and millions of others watched it because there was a lot of money invested by Netflix, and because Marvel isn't making any movies right now, and because you can't go see, and because the Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't actually functioning at this point. Like, Avengers Endgame was quite literal. It was the end game. Where's the next movie? Who knows, right? Like, I guess the next movie is supposed to be a movie about Black Widow, a character that literally is dead now. Okay. How do we get on board with that? I'm not sure, right? Like, I don't know, right? Like, so, and so I jumped in on Jupiter's Legacy expecting that, Mark Miller, there'd be a story there with Netflix bringing it, to market. There'd be a story there. There was nothing there. That show did not deliver in any way. It was just, it was the same old, right? It was Watchmen with, there wasn't anything there. There really wasn't, okay? Debris. And I don't even need to explain to you what Jupiter Legacy is, because it's the same nonsense you saw in The Boys, Watchmen, and in, but at least Watchmen was original, right? Like, when Watchmen came out, that was the first time bad superheroes had been done. And Invincible, right? Like, at least there were, So I don't even need to explain what Jupiter's Legacy did or said or was, because it's already finished, right? So what about Debris? Debris started out brilliantly. So it's a show about an alien spacecraft that comes into our solar system, breaks apart, and then parts of the spaceship rain down onto Earth, right? And that is a brilliant concept. And I started and I watched 7 episodes of it. And there's like 3 or 4 that are out now that I can't bring myself to watch. And the reason why is, when these parts of the alien ship fell onto Earth, they inverted gravity. They changed the flow of time. They gave people superpowers. They allowed people to teleport, all these crazy things, right? But as the story goes on, first of all, you have to like the characters. And one of the things that's happening majorly with Hollywood right now is Hollywood has no idea what a hero and a villain is. Because they want everything to be interesting, almost constantly we're getting villains being put in as the protagonist. So it's villains versus villains. Who wants to watch this? And so Debris, they did not have ground. It was 2 partners, cops, right? And they were like, what if the 2 cops who worked together hated each other and lied to each other constantly? and really couldn't trust each other at all. And these are the protagonists. Well, you know what happens when you do that? You get villains on villains on villains, and that's not a good story. There's nobody to root for. And I think Hollywood has forgotten this, that we need heroes to root for. And that, I think, is why Gary Gygax was so smart in 1974, where he's like, you play heroes, period. You play heroes. This isn't for debate. Right? We're not going to do villains on villains, because Gary knew in 1974 that wasn't a compelling story. Here in 2021, the writers of Debris don't know that, right? And they have not made a compelling story. And in addition to that, the biggest crime they did with that, and biggest cultural crime they did with Debris, is they raised these huge questions. What's special about this ship? Why did it blow apart? Why is it raining down on Earth? Well, I'm 7 episodes in, and I don't know the answer to any of these questions, right? And I got to the point where I'm like, they're not going to answer these questions. They're just going to keep telling superhero stories with an excuse of alien debris. And they don't want to answer questions, because the moment they answer questions, it limits their story options. Well, yes, it does limit your story options, but there's a point where you have to answer questions for the viewer. You don't get to just write everything and anything, right? So Debris really did not, it brought forward amazing questions and answered none of them. So it failed as a story option. Mayor of Easttown, 5 episodes in, okay? It's nothing special. Right? The structure is nothing special. It's detective story. It's been done a million times, right? It's incredibly well-trod area. And by the way, Debris, that was telling a story that's never been told before. Like, that story structure is completely unique. Should have worked out, right? Mayor of Easttown is just grizzled detective. Nothing new there, right? It's been done in True Detective. It's been done in, Roselli and Isles, right? It's been done in a million different, detective shows. It was done in Luther, right? There's nothing new here. But what happened was that show started in flight, saying there's a missing girl, and the girl's been gone for a year, and the detective who was put on duty to find that missing girl no longer believes she can be found. Now another girl has gone missing under the same exact principle. And that woman, Mayor of Easttown, right, this grizzled detective, is Roselli and Isles. Not even the fact that she's a woman detective is even new. That's been done for 2 decades, right? So Mayor of Easttown has this super trite, super regular story, right? And Mayor of Easttown gets going, and they start in flight, and they said there's a missing girl. Then they introduce you to the detective, grizzled detective. No surprise there. Old as dirt, right? Then another girl goes missing, and now the detective is under more pressure than ever to do something, to find a path forward, right? And she gets a partner who comes in, and the partner's being brought in because nobody believes she can solve the crime now. But now, the same thing has happened a year later. She's got a fire lit under her butt. But her personal problems are so significant that she does things that are wrong, right? So all this stuff is just going. But in episode 5, here's what happens, right? Mare has been thrown off the case. Give me your badge, give me your gun. Old as dirt, nothing new there, right? And her partner, who is interested in her romantically, terrible idea, right? He keeps her on the case because he likes her so much. And you know what? She finds the girls. In episode 5, she finds the girls. And you know what happens? When she finds the girl, they knock house to house looking for a blue van. And on like their 7th try, they find a guy, and they realize right then and there they're in the midst of the killers, and the 2 girls who are missing are right downstairs, right? And then the kidnapper shoots her partner, may have killed him or may not have, but now Mare, who was a down and out detective, we know the answers. We know who kidnapped the girls. We know where they are, right? We also know that the detective who was romantically interested in his partner, Mare, right, wasn't on his game and ends up getting shot because he wasn't paying attention and he was making bad decisions. And now Mare, who has no business being a hero, is about to be heralded as a hero because she did what nobody could do. That is good storytelling. It was shocking and surprising. It didn't waste my time. It answered the big questions in episode 5, right? You know why? So they can set up new questions and new situations. So they didn't have to be lazy and sit around and milk a situation for an entire season, exactly the way Debris is doing, right? They also knew they needed to answer questions and do something compelling and interesting and memorable right away. And you are under exactly the same pressure. When you start your tabletop role-playing game in your campaign, you had better have something major happen, right? Not just some monster from the monster manual, but something unique and compelling and memorable that you put in the game, right? That you did. And that is, and you are making a promise the moment you start your campaign, and you have to deliver on that promise, right? I'll tell you, I've watched so many shows recently, I was starting to believe that shows didn't even deliver on any promises anymore, because there's so much bad stuff coming out of Hollywood. I like high production stuff, and more that means bad writing, right? But not everywhere. Mayor of Easttown just absolutely jackhammered a compelling finish, and I was shocked and stunned, right? And we are all under this pressure. When we bring players to our table, we need to do something memorable. We need to deliver on the promise we make, that their time will not be wasted, that something memorable will happen, that the questions we raise will be answered. We're under that pressure. We need to do it. It's possible. If you don't think it's possible, go watch Mayor of Easttown. That show slam dunks like drama and memorability and answering questions that are raised, right? Rather than opening up new questions before you answer up the old, right? It delivers. And we are under that pressure. In our Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game, we need to deliver, right? That's important. How do you deliver in your games? I'd love to hear. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.